Thomas Frank, my man, how have you got away with this one? How have you still got a job, you cheeky rascal? Because you absolutely stink. Now, don't get me wrong. Tottenham Hotspur as a club is honking right now, and it has been for years. This is nothing new. But week after week after week, Frank's Spurs team have been stinking the gaff out, and they did it again on Saturday. And do you know what? Thank God they did, because that was a massive win for us. A really important 3 points for West Ham on Saturday, plus a last-minute winner as well. And I know at the end of the day, a 2-1 win is a 2-1 win. It doesn't really matter whether you get your second goal on the hour mark or in the 90th minute. It all counts the same. But it doesn't quite pack the same punch, does it? There's no better way and there's no sweeter way than a stoppage time winner, especially over Spurs. Now, we're going to discuss it from the Hammers' perspective in just a minute, but before we do that, I want to discuss Spurs. I want to discuss Thomas Frank and the possible, likely sacking. Should he be sacked? Yeah, he should be. He should have been sacked a few weeks ago. And I guess I was never really expecting them to sack Frank if they lost to us on Saturday, unless it was a more humiliating scoreline like 3-0 or something, a hiding on the pitch and on the score sheet. But a 2-1 defeat with a last-minute winner, I don't think is going to do that. Because last week they appointed Heitinga and they were very, very keen to make it clear that this is Thomas Frank's appointment. He interviewed him. He sat down with him. He's approved this appointment. This is Thomas Frank's appointment. I don't believe it. I'm incredibly suspicious about this one. I think it's a club appointment. They've just got Frank to approve it so it can be made to look like it's Thomas Frank's appointment. I think if Frank was to go tomorrow, my guess is that Heitinga will still be here. Frank will go. His coaches from Brentford will go. See you later. And I think Heitinga will remain, because he's got a good football. He's putting together quite a good footballing CV at the minute, Heitinga, isn't he? He's going from club to club. He's got a lot of experience in the Premier League already as a coach. And Spurs is another club on that list from a coaching perspective. But I've got a feeling he will remain. But that defeat to West Ham wasn't enough for Spurs to sack him. Oh no, they've decided, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to stick by Frank. He's getting at least one more game in the Champions League. Maybe if they lose that one, they'll finally sack him. But it feels like a question of when and not if. It feels impossible to Frank to turn this around. So where's the issue? Is it Frank? Is it Spurs? I think it's all of it. I think it's a really bad fit. I think it's the wrong club for Frank, and I think Frank is the wrong manager for Tottenham. Here's a slight defence of Thomas Frank and a criticism of Spurs, though. Thomas Frank will find another job, and there will be right clubs for him, and he will go somewhere else, and as long as it's the right club, he will perform really well there. I've got no doubt about that. He's still a really good head coach. But with Spurs, who are they going to get in next? Is he going to perform? Probably not. Why? Because the issues will still remain. And then they'll get rid of him and get rid of him. So you could say, well, why did you get rid of Thomas Frank then? Because you can't decide who the right type of manager is for your football club doesn't mean you should stick with the wrong one. You should continue exploring, in my opinion. You should try and find out exactly what it is you're looking for. Is Oliver Glasner the right guy for Spurs? I don't know. But I think it's worth trying if he would go there. I don't see why they wouldn't be able to get him. I appreciate he's the favourite for the Man United job. If I was Spurs, I'd be making a move now to see if I could get Glasner out of Palace and pay them a bit of compensation for him. He sounds like he wants out. Palace sound like they'd maybe cash in on him while they could there'd be a little bit of compensation to be paid. I don't know. But back to Thomas Frank. When he was at Brentford, he was a fantastic head coach. But Brentford is a really well-run club. He didn't have to worry about anything other than being head coach. Get your team ready for the next game. That was pretty much his job. The club was so well-run. Even in like the player recruitment side of things, he didn't have to do much. He was involved. He was on the committee. But they had scouts. They had their agents. They knew exactly what they were doing, how they wanted to do it, where they wanted to get to. They had a process. They've got a method. They believed in it. They've stuck to it. And it's worked again and again and again and again. Thomas Frank was one cog in a well-oiled machine. because all the other cogs were in the right places. They were all the right shapes and sizes, and they did exactly what they were supposed to do. It's a really well-run club. Even Thomas Frank's backroom team at Brentford, some of them were picked for him. It's, here we go, Frank. We think this is someone that's going to be a really good coach for Brentford. There you go. Thank you very much. On we continue. His job was made as easy as possible by people who knew what they were doing at Brentford Football Club. He's gone to Spurs. Now, upon the appointment, I thought that this was boring but safe. I thought that's what Spurs would be this season under Thomas Frank. I was wrong. They're not boring. They're bloody entertaining for the wrong reasons if you're a Spurs fan. For me, they're entertaining for the right reasons, but they're not safe either. It's wrong. It's bad. They need to make a change at some point, but he's gone in there. And I don't think it would have been easy for him, because I feel like some of the players were maybe still Postecoglou in players. Because when he left and all the social media posts from the players, I haven't really seen anything like it. There was a lot of players coming out and thanking Ange, and you could tell that they were still with him, in my opinion. The board of Spurs might have given up on Postecoglou. Part of the fan base might have given up on Postecoglou, and that's understandable. But it doesn't mean that the players did. And I think the reaction that we've seen when Postecoglou left would suggest actually maybe they were still with him. And when you're a manager going into a dressing room, I think usually they're quite down. A lot of them were perhaps not playing under the previous guys, so they're pleased to have a clean slate and they're looking to impress a new one. But I'm not sure Frank was going into this broken dressing room at Spurs. I'm not sure they were going into this dressing room that was so down they were glad the other guys left. I think they were a little bit sad Postecoglou left. And I appreciate some of the fingers at the minute will be pointed at the players, because some of them are not playing as well as they should have been. And when a club like Spurs change the manager, it's, well, the manager's obviously not the issue, so where is the problem at this football club? Is it the board? Is it the players? Is it everything? And I think the fingers are going to get pointed everywhere, and I think there's blame everywhere. But just because the board isn't good enough and the players aren't playing as well as they should be, doesn't mean the head coach is the right guy for the job, or the head coach is doing as well as he should be. And unfortunately in football, I say unfortunately, it's for the head coaches. It's cheaper to sack them and try someone new than it is to offload the entire squad and bring in a complete set of players. And that's what will happen eventually at Spurs. They'll get rid of Frank and they'll bring someone else in, hoping he can work with this very expensive assembled team. Because there's some, I know they've got a long injury list and there's some important players on there, but they've still got a bloody good team available on paper individually. But that's all it is at Spurs at the minute. It's just individually some good players. They're not a team. They're not playing like a unit. I still think, I've said this for weeks, months now, I think Thomas Frank's issue when I watch Spurs play is he's using Brentford tactics with Spurs players. Because he has to accept Tottenham are a bigger team. Tottenham have better players, have bigger players. They're not going to go to away games, which is do not lose. They need to go to away games to try and win matches, because that is the ambitions of Spurs. And success is all relative. Thomas Frank at Brentford was hugely successful because their ambition was to stay in the Premier League, stay in the Premier League, stay in the Premier League. And that was a great achievement for Brentford when you consider their resource, the size of the club. But at Tottenham, success isn't staying in the Premier League. Success is qualifying for the Champions League or winning a trophy. I think that is the only two things that would occur for at the end of the season for me to go, do you know what? I think this was a successful season for Spurs. Champions League or winning silverware. He's not going to do either of those things. At this rate, he's not even going to finish in the top half of the table, which I think is the bare minimum for a club like Tottenham. He's not even going to achieve that at this rate. Thomas Frank, I think, is the wrong fit for Spurs. But like I said, Frank, as long as he gets his next appointment right, he will go somewhere and become a good head coach again. Because he will be the right fit for the right club. But who do you get in next at Tottenham? Is there a right fit for that club? I'm not convinced there is. You might get someone that can yield short-term success in despite of the way it's run as a football club. But eventually, the cracks will appear, the cracks will widen, and that manager will have to go as well, and the next one will come in. They've spent an obscene amount of money at that football club to try and bring success, and they've failed. They've won the Europa League, and that is a great achievement. But it was at the sacrifice of the league, and they're possibly paying the consequences of that somewhat this season. I don't think the issues at Spurs can be fixed by replacing Thomas Frank. But I do think one of the issues at Spurs can maybe be fixed by replacing Thomas Frank. It's just getting the next guy in. Will he be the right fit? I'm not sure. It feels like they're just trying to load the gloves on, but unfortunately the person trying the gloves on has got 6 fingers. There isn't a glove that fits. That's a really bad analogy, isn't it? Anyway, I'm sticking with it. For West Ham, though, this was absolutely brilliant. I loved it. I thought played really well in the first half. Not so good in the second half. We did that thing where we take the lead and sit back and go, what you got? Bang, turns out they had an equaliser for us. But Callum Wilson coming off the bench, scoring in the last minute. And it was a boost, and I was buzzing. But the shine came off pretty quickly. I mean, we already knew Leeds were winning. But the shine came off quite quickly, because later on, Nottingham Forest would hold Arsenal to a 0-0 draw. I mean, come on, Arsenal. Most games I don't want you to win. Most games I'm rooting for Arsenal to lose. They turn up, play really well, win 2-0, move on to the next game. The one time I'm actually rooting for Arsenal, verbally cheering Arsenal on. Go on, go on. No, nothing. Nice one, Arteta. Thank you very much. A good point for Nottingham Forest, but a bad point for West Ham United. Man United, though, my word, they were good, weren't they? Hey? Michael Carrick is about 2 wins away from Rio Ferdinand, wafting a bit of paper around, slapping on the table saying, Carrick at the wheel, give him what he wants. You're about 2 games away from that. Unfortunately, Carrick's also 1 draw away from Roy Keane slagging off his missus again. It's just, wow, an absolute mad football club, Man United are. And it's not just the football club itself. In terms of like this war, it feels like a war between the football club and the pundits at the minute. In like Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, I mean, whoa. I feel like they've gone, there's a line. I think they've overstepped that line personally since the appointment of Michael Carrick. I'm pleased, as an ex-West Ham boy, I'm pleased that Michael Carrick got that win. The bad thing is Arsenal benefited from Man City losing, but my word, Man, you looked good. They looked sharp. They looked like they knew exactly what they were doing. Tactically, they had a really good plan. But not only did they have a really good plan, they executed it really well too. They were really good. I was surprised at just how good they were, and I was a little bit jealous of just how good they were. I watched about the first hour of this game, then I had work to do around the West Ham one, and then I went back and watched the highlights. Yeah, if I was a Man U fan, I think I'd be excited. And I think they play Arsenal next. It's a difficult game for them, but I think they can look forward to games again under Michael Carrick. For now, anyway. Aston Villa 0, Everton 1. I mean, I made a bit of a joke on the preview show that I did last week about how they just call it Super Sunday, even if it's not Super Sunday. My word. What's the equivalent of this? Miniature Sunday. What pair of boring games we got. Wolves 0, Newcastle 0, Villa 0, Everton 1. 180 minutes of football for one. I mean, don't get me wrong, a bloody good finish by Barry, and I'm pleased for him. I found myself rooting for him. You guys that have tuned in for the last month or so will know this, because I think he worked so hard, and he was so unlucky not to get his first goal. Then he finally got one. And I thought he'd go on a bit of a purple patch, and that hasn't really happened. But that goal was a striker that looked confident, just dinking it over Martinez like that. But Villa were just lacking. And again, I sat there yesterday thinking, this is where he brings on Malin. But obviously he's at Roma now. And I know Villa are heavily linked with Tammy Abraham, but I don't know, I don't think that was what they needed to bring on. Gessan just continues to be a waste of space at that place. But they were missing Malin at 0-0. I was thinking this is where Emery would get Malin on the pitch, whether it was for Watkins, whether he'd take Gessan back off, whether He'd maybe take Buendia off. He'd change something. But Malin would be the guy. He wasn't there. In the end, an 18-year-old was coming on for his debut in the middle of the pitch. So Villa need reinforcements if they're going to get Champions League football. I think they will get Champions League football. But the bench was making that team, that squad, look a little bit light. Great win for Everton, though. A very, very hard place to go. And also, you know, we speak of injuries to Villa and Spurs. Everton missing a lot of players at the minute as well, like Sir Dewsbury Hall out. Huge win, that one. Very, very impressive. Leeds 1, Fulham 0. Massive win for Leeds. The news came through that Leeds had scored, but because our game was 1-1, I didn't really care that much because we needed a win, full stop, and it was kind of irrelevant what everyone else is going to do. We only drew that game. So Leeds scored. I wasn't that bothered. And then when we scored, I thought, oh, damn it, Leeds have scored as well. Good goal by Nemetcha. I only seen the highlights of this game. Looked like quite a low-event game. But again, Leeds United, missing Stack, missing Bijol at the back, gets to 3 points against a really in-form Fulham team, keeping Messi quiet out on the right wing for Fulham as well. Huge win for them. Lets them relax a little bit. They didn't gain any points on us, but they're 2 points further ahead than Nottingham Forest than they were this time last week. Liverpool drawing with Burnley. Another game unbeaten for Liverpool, but they just don't feel... I've seen that clip. Have you seen the clip of Aaron Slot and Curtis Jones? It looks like Curtis Jones is saying what position, and then Aaron Slot says something, and then he basically turns around and says, that's the same position, or something along that lines. I feel like I've seen a lot of examples in the last month of players starting to question Aaron Slot's tactics or authority, that authority at the club. And I think that's the worst thing, because when that starts to go, it feels a little bit untenable. And I think that's maybe what we've got at Liverpool. I'd be surprised if they continue as they are this season, which is to maybe just finish in the top 4 but not do anything else. I'd be more surprised than not if Aaron Slot was still here next season. Someone that likely will be here next season, but you never know with Chelsea. Liam Senior, 2-0 win over Brentford. An important win for him as well as Chelsea. Just needed to get that win. This one looked like it was busy in the first half. There's quite a few highlights going on. But I was like, hang on a minute. When Garnacho missed, I thought, hang on a minute. This is still the first half. It felt like there was 3 or 4 clear-cut chances for each team. How Jensen only hit the post for Brentford, I do not know. An important win for Chelsea, though. And then Sunderland beating Crystal Palace off the back of that explosive press conferences from Oliver Glasner. And then we got just an explosive interview after the game as well. I think that was the main talking point to take away from it. Not the fact that Sunderland won or Palace have failed to win again, but just Glasner's comments. It was quite... wow, you don't really get honesty like that from a manager until they're on the brink. And that's what Glasner is. That's a guy leaving the club with nothing to lose speaking. And I quite like it. I would like to encourage more of that from everyone involved in football, really. But listen, good win. Good win for Sunderland. Stadium of Light's a very difficult place to go. And they've got through this period of missing players to the African Cup of Nations without any issues whatsoever. Equal points with Newcastle United in the league table as well. What a successful season it's been for them so far. Unfortunately, they play us next. So, you know, that's it coming to an end. Hopefully. I'm not getting carried away, I promise you. It's just, look, you got to have a laugh, haven't you? And if you can't have a laugh at this point as a West Ham fan, you ain't going to be able to have one. It's been a bleak season for us, so I'm going to grab any bit of positivity with both hands. Thank you very much. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Let me know your thoughts on the Premier League over the weekend in the comments below. I'll be back later on tonight and tomorrow to catch up with you in the comment section. And I might upload a video tomorrow or Wednesday. Yeah, I feel it. I'm in a good mood. I'm motivated. So if there's anything you want me to discuss, let me know in the comments below and I'll pinch one of your ideas. Thank you very much. Please do drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed it by clicking the thumbs up button. Subscribe to Tartan Geo. I'll catch you in a bit.